Okay, folks, here we are, Wednesday evening. Gonna get back into the painting that we were doing. Weren't able to do any yesterday, but let's see if we can knock these guys out. We'll give it a shot. We need to get some metal here and go ahead and knock that out. The metal parts on. Well, actually, we were working on the face here, weren't we? Let's find out where we live. This guy's face is partially done. This one looks like it's completely done. This one's completely done. Okay, we were in mid-face. That's where we were. Then we'll come back and do the metal part. Got a little discombobulated. And my paper towel walked away. Let's get a new one. Let's put this here so it doesn't move around so much. All right, where is the happy juice? We got plenty of it there. We must have poured it heavy last time we got that out. All right. We've got, I know we put moisture in this. We did a couple things right, I think, before I got started. One of them is to put this moisture back in it. Yep, this paint should be alive. And I did do a test so I'm not shooting the entire video backwards. Or mirrored, I should say. There he is. Captain Joe. My closest watcher. There's people all over the world that do this, and you're definitely the person that's the closest to me. Same time zone, etc. Just have this one face to do, and then we can roll into the helmets. Shouldn't take too much to get done with these three figures, but you never know. No, quite dried out that quick. I got a little bit of life out of it. Glad to be home today. Today was like helter skelter. Man, it was like a real feel over 100 degrees. Couldn't wait to get home and take a shower. this guy's face, and it's the same face as the other one. For whatever reason, this guy's got kind of a Planet of the Apes look. Not that I ever watched that show, but I don't mean that as a compliment. Alright, we'll call it a day on that. Let's go ahead and start working on the metallics. So the metallics are definitely dried up. So we're going to need to add these on here. And we don't want to use this one. That one's a little too good shape for that. Yeah, let's use this one right here. All right. One thing I do want to check. Let's make sure that this is charging. Yep. Okay, good. We don't want that problem. All right, so let's go ahead and get some of this metallic color. And we're going to paint this helmet. And this helmet actually I thought was completely flat, but it looks like it's got some ribs, some strengthening ribs. So we'll paint that accordingly. That stands out a little bit. Okay. And we'll do the same with these other two. They're over here. Oh, you know what? There's other metallic stuff on here. Let's knock that stuff out too. Okay. You know, on one hand, it's kind of a pain that you have to paint all this stuff. On the other hand, you're not having a helmet that's completely barren and smooth. Clay S, hello from El Paso. Welcome. Where it's just as hot there as it is here. Today was god awful hot. Wife said real feel today was 104. I believe it. It was super, super hot. That and having to wear work gear. It's all right. Just 2 more days. We got to deal with it. Then we get a break. El Paso. That's out in Mountain Time Zone. I'm pretty sure. I think the Panhandle out there is in a different time zone. 90 degrees, 40% humidity. Our humidity had to be over 70 today. It was just awful. Only good thing is we didn't have any lightning storms, so that's good. Maybe I wouldn't mind it so much if I didn't have to work in and out and in and out and in and out. Like on a weekend, I don't care how hot it is. If I'm indoors painting, whatever. Yeah, the other day, I want to say it was Monday, I opened the garage to go to work. Close to about 7 a.m. and it felt like it was like 90 degrees. I'm sure it wasn't. It was in the 80s, but and thick. You could have cut it with a chainsaw. HVAC. Yeah, on the weekends. On the weekends when I'm inside. Okay, we're done with him. Oh, I didn't realize I did a second one. I thought there was one left. Well, I'll be damned. Okay. Okay, well, let's drop some Nuln oil on that. Let it percolate for a little bit. It dries fairly fast, but when we go back to it, we can put the other color on top of it. Okay, come back to that. Last one. All right, we'll let that simmer for a little bit. Stuff actually dries pretty fast, considering it's mostly water or something along those lines. I may have to go make some coffee. So I'm a little, getting a little tired. All right, what we got left on these guys? We got hair on them. We got a belt and the little packs, which we're going to use the same color that we did on the other guys. That's the khaki from Coat d'Arms. My favorite paint, but you can't just walk into a store and get it. Nobody likes to paint shipping. You definitely don't want to paint shipping on, pay for shipping on paint. That's a bit extreme. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up. I know there's a little bit of coffee left. Let me go fill this up and I'll be right back. It's like 2 shots or something like that. More than I thought there was. That's good. 'Cause I like it cold. I don't drink warm coffee. There can't be a lot of wargaming out in El Paso. A buddy of mine was stationed out there for, I want to say a year or something like that. Maybe it was 6 months. How long ago would it have been? 10 years ago? 8 years ago? Something like that. He couldn't wait to get out of there. It was 6 months or a year, something like that. With any luck, maybe we'll have some games to film next week. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not dying to play any more games. And the reason why is I'm not dying after being in a day out in the heat of going into a shed that's also hot. You know, like I've had enough hot. So I can't wait for the temperature to drop some. Even if it's just cool in the evenings. But these hot nights are crazy. Just crazy. And the older I get, the less I want to be in the heat. I'm going to be the one person that when they get older, they're not going to complain that they're too cold. There isn't. Last time I gamed DBA was 20 plus years. Wow. Yeah. There wasn't any here for a long time. I didn't have a local person to play with probably since from 1996 to 2010. So I did my time. Honestly, I could probably be okay not having people to game with now that I can do this. You know, this is such a niche thing that we just need access to people from all over the world, because even if you're in a big city, you might find war gamers, and you got to find historical war gamers, and then after you find historical war gamers, they might do a different scale you're not interested in. You know, it just we need the whole world to draw upon. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get some of this paint out here. This is the color that we used for the packs on the last one. I don't really want to leave this open because it'll dry out on me. And I don't want to open this a million times. So let's see. Let's do some compromise here. Let's take a bunch of paint and plop it down there and then close it up, and hopefully we got enough. If not, we'll just have to open it back up later. So I love these coat the arms paints, but they're bottle designed. The little tabs break off real easy. And before you know it, you got no good way to close these bottles without getting paint all over you. But we know those kind of things are going to happen, so it's not like it catches us by surprise. So, James L. Morning, fellas from Sydney. Good evening to you. Sydney. You guys still locked down? I think Australian Greg was telling me a couple of weeks ago you guys were going to close down hard for a week to see if you could stamp that out. Did you guys get out of that mess, or are you still in it? I wouldn't have known if he hadn't said something about it. I don't pay attention to news. Certainly not news that's happening somewhere far away. Yeah, it's tight here, unfortunately. Oh, so that week turned into 3 weeks. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. It's better that way. Don't pay attention to what they tell you in the news. It's getting spun. I just started playing another round of a tournament. This computer game I play, which I kind of regret playing it because it just takes time away from doing this. But anyhow, So I'm playing this guy, and I pretty much start off with, you know, everybody kind of does their little greeting. And I always like putting where I'm from, you know, so you can kind of, you know, gauge where. And it's almost always somebody from the UK. Had one player from France. Usually it's the UK. Couple American players. What else have I had? A French player. Everybody else has been from the UK and a couple of American players. Oh, a German player also. And when I tell people I'm from Florida, I don't know. You guys that don't live in Florida, you must be. What kind of crap are they feeding you? Because, you know, the guy said, what did he say the other day? He said, he sent me. He asked me what time it was. And I said, well, it's like 6 a.m. because, you know, I get up in the morning and I do my turns before I go to work. And the guy's like, oh, you must have been up all night doing meth. And I'm like, is that what you guys hear? There's a bunch of drugs. I guess there's a lot of people that do drugs everywhere. I don't know any of them. Alcohol always took me where I need to go. Kids in elementary school know more about drugs than I do. I've never been into that shit. I think we have to do the thing. Before we do the thing, if you catch me, jab, jab. I think we need to do the thing before we do the thing. I don't know. This is an upside down world we live in. You've been off work a long time with some injuries, so I know how to pass time. Doing bases for 6mm hot. Oh man, sorry you're off of work for. Well, it's not that you're off work. It's a problem. It's just if it's an income issue. Like, you know, if I retired like now, okay, I know what I got to do. It's not like I'm going to be bored, you know, but it doesn't pay the bills. So I retired last September. So I'm rebasing, watching you guys someday. What do you think of DBN? I got a crap load of Adler 6mm painted up for Napoleon's battles. Gonna rebase for DBA. So the problem I have with DBN is if I was really into DBN, if I was really into Napoleonics, I wouldn't play DBN. It's too generic for something that I would have a love for. It plays okay. You know, the one guy that Mitch's buddy from up north, that you have a couple of battles on my channel, been on there. Joel, he's got several armies for that. He's got a lot of armies actually. So there's no I can theoretically play and not have to paint any. But it's just not my period. You know, I don't dislike it. It's just never really got into it. So, in a little bit of pain, and my hands don't do what they're supposed to. But it's taught me different ways of painting. Oh man, that sucks. Hopefully you'll pull through. Whatever. Never tried DBN, but getting Absolute Emperor for my birthday. I know the author who did Absolute Emperor. I've never played it, but he's one of our gaming. He lives over in the Orlando area. The author. So, to be honest, doing 2mm NAS for Neil Thomas 1 hour war games and using Age Absolute Emperor for reference. Okay. Yeah, I can't say, unlike the American Civil War, I can't say I dislike the period. I just never got into it, you know. So, and none of my peers ever played it. So, just like I'll always find it funny. You know, it's all what you're used to. I always find it funny that somebody may have been wargaming for a while and like never played World War II stuff. I'm like, that's all we played was World War II stuff, you know. I think we're supposed to get more freedom after the Astra, but let's see, I guess. Hopeful. I don't know. I don't want to be negative, but I think what's happened in the last 2 years, we're never going to go back to how things were. It's just kind of like 9/11. You know, you're never going to go on a plane. I mean, at least I'm not running around scared. I mean, there's people that are definitely scared of the situation. You know, so they're going to be. So I just don't see it. You know, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be in total lockdown, but I don't see it getting back to normal, and that's really upsetting because I don't like giving my freedom away. You know, I have an aversion to being told what to do. But you know, it is what it is. Um, but you know, we're big cruisers. We used to go on a cruise every year. We'll never go on a cruise a year if you got to be, you know, masked up the whole time. You know, I mean, that's the rules. Okay, well, I guess we won't go. Find other stuff to do. So, I hope I'm wrong. But, like at work, we're busy as crap at work. So it's like all the work you want and more, but none of the vacation options. You know, I don't get to work from home or anything. I think pike and shot and colonials were later 19th century are my non-ancient. I think pike and shot and colonials or 19th century are my non-ancient and medieval bag. More though. You've been eating Holden Astra parts all day and have gotten to the headlights. What am I doing wrong? I don't know what you're trying to say. Holden. Holden. Holden, that's a car brand over there, right? Astra? Got into the headlights. What am I doing wrong? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry. Lost in translation. You a mechanic? I would hate to be a mechanic in Florida, man. It's so freaking hot. You know, I don't mind working on tinkering with stuff on my car. But, you know, I have special rules, you know. Holden Astra is an Aussie car. Okay, cool. Um, you know, the rules to working on cars are crack open a beer and then put your earbuds on and listen to music, and then you can just chill out, you know. But so I don't want to do it like at a workplace. I'm saying when it comes to naps are for the periods either side of it weirdly. Okay. But you're way more into ancients, medieval, and fantasy. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, there's a lot of history to. The cool thing about Napoleonics would be, for me, would be, and I've mentioned this before, wargaming has always been about learning. So if there's and it's not that I don't know anything about the Napoleonic period, but there's a lot more I could add to my knowledge by gaming the period, and that's an appeal for me, you know. You know, what was the other day? Well, the other day was like 6 months ago. I read some article about. I know this guy who's doing figures for the Crimean War. So I went and started reading about the Crimean War, which I don't know jack shit about, you know. But, you know, it was kind of interesting. So it's always been about learning, you know, obviously being creative and painting things and, you know. But I I figure if I eat a whole Astra, I can't get ill. That's one way to get lead poisoning, I guess. Should be lead parts in there. I gotta look at what that is. A Holden Astra. Let's see what a Holden Astra is. Only thing I know about a Holden Astra is that you got the steering wheel on the wrong side. Holden Astra. Oh, okay, cool. Small car formerly marketed by Holden, first couple generations, only made for Australia, and is a derivative of the locally produced Nissan Pulsar. Interesting, because there was a Nissan Pulsar that was here in the late 80s, and the Nissan Pulsar was a two-door car. It looked kind of like a Fiero, and I don't remember if it had a back seat or not, but it was kind of like a small Fiero, and let's take a look at this thing. Okay. It almost looks like a Scirocco in a way. Well, the hatchback does. Cool. Oh, it was replaced by the Holden Nova rebadged Toyota Corolla. Okay. Cool. I think even if DBN is more abstract than those Warhammer-inspired games like Black Powder, it will still provide a more fluid game overall. Yeah. I didn't realize that Black Powder was Warhammer-inspired. I've never played Warhammer. I'm not a fan of 28mm. It just takes too long to paint. I'd rather do 6. I'd rather do 6mm than... you could get... there's actually somebody out there, I don't remember who it is, but I was looking for pictures of Napoleonics, or maybe it was a painter, and they had no, you know what it was? It was a 7 Years War game that they had with 6mm figures, and their units were big. The stands were like, gosh, what would it have been? Remember, we're talking about 6mm. I think the stands were like... I think the stands were this size. One stand, or it might have even been longer. So you could do them like little formate. I mean, it looked really, really cool. The only problem I would see with doing 6mm is going to be a pain to get the goop, the terrain material in between the legs and then paint it. That's the only reason. But other than that, it freaking looks great. Yeah, it was 7 Years War. That's what it was. And you see stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, I'd really like to play that because it looks really cool. Yeah. The problem that I have with DBN is the same problem with all the DB systems, is you have to have that perfect alignment where you line up, which makes the game play wonky and very abstract. The rest of it is okay, because they're moving like they're equivalent to, what is it, brigades or something like that, each stand, something like that. It's a very high count of unit representation, but yeah, that whole alignment nonsense. I'm not gonna learn how to play another game that has that type of alignment. I find it very unsatisfying. So, 7 Years War figures are lovely. I have some Austrians and Prussians in my pile. That's exactly what I would do. I would do Austrians and Prussians and Russians. We tried Harold Caesar, didn't like it much. I did like Age of Hannibal, the Little Wars. Okay, yep, I know those guys. They have really good content. But for ancients and medieval, I use DBA, and for others, I use Neil Thomas mainly. Several people have mentioned that Neil Thomas thing. DVA is not perfect, but it works. You know, I just mainly just want to get this stuff painted and have fun with it and play with my own toys. So this works for it. Okay, I think we're just going to bring this, let's just bring this all the way up, and then we'll go to back to the other figure. We're going to need to put some new white down there because we can't squeeze the life out of that stuff anymore. It's always so quick to dry. Nothing super special. You know, if I was retired, I'd be tempted to work on modifying these rules with the stuff that I find lacking in them, which isn't a lot. It does a lot of things right. And just see how it works out. It may not work out, but I just don't have the time or the energy or inclination. You know, working on rules isn't therapeutic. Painting figures is therapeutic. And if you're working on rules, you're not painting figures. So. Done. Let's move this guy off to the side. Bring him back. Yeah, some people just want to create their own rules or find something else because they like to argue. I argue is a waste of time, you know. Okay. Stuff dried up pretty fast here, even though it came out here wet. Well, I got this fan on high too, but that's just par for the course. I'm a big fan of a ceiling. I'm a big ceiling fan, so. Holden Astra. Is Holden still in business? Weren't they bought by GM, or they're a subsidiary of? The only reason I know that is I like to play racing games. I know that Holden is an Australian brand. Just didn't know we were talking about cars. I'd never heard of Astra. The only Astra I've heard of was the pistol company from Spain. It's also defunct. Didn't know there was a car named Astra. But you know, there's even if it's a manufacturer that is available in the United States, they'll make things for other countries It'll be like some brand that they make things in the United States, so they don't make them a certain way. Like I was looking at, I mean, there's hardly any vehicles that are made that are manual transmission here in the United States. There's only a handful, 10% or something like that, and that's like that's like I gotta have that. Otherwise, I might as well just not get a vehicle. I'm the only sadist that wants to drive a. It's fun. It's like you're playing a game. I don't want to go to work. Well, I get to play a game on the way to work, so not so bad. As soon as you get to the level of reusable magic items or the difference between a contos and a spear, I'm out. Pretty much finishing up our car industry, sadly. Australia used to have excellent manufacturing. Yeah, I wonder what happened. I don't know. Can't say I've ever driven an Australian car. I mean, there's no reason why a place like Australia or England would have terrible cars, but English cars aren't known for being well. I'll give someone else a bit of air now. Ramble, ramble. That's not a problem. Yeah, there's no reason why. I'm a big fan of Japanese vehicles, so I've always had Japanese vehicles. Not always made in Japan. Sometimes they're made here. It's not where it's made. It's the quality control. Like a lot of domestic manufacturers here, their stuff's just terrible. But it's just like just made to last 3 years or something like that. Well, that's not very empowering, It's whatever you're used to. I'm a fan of the Japanese vehicles. So I had Nissans for a while, and then we've had a couple of Mazdas. We had so many vehicles, not because they break down, but because we do leases and things like that. And then we did the Toyotas, and now we've gone to Subaru. So you this year was weird. It was like nothing's available, nothing was remade, new models. It was like, well, I don't want to re-up for the same damn model, so. Is Huracan September still on? They're screaming for mask mandates over here. Our governor, like yours, isn't going for it, so the city is suing. Power tripping. I don't know. So Huracan's still on. So here's the thing that happened in Huracan. I'll give you a little bit of a background information from my viewpoint. The people that are running the show aren't really doing anything, but it's being held at a hotel that, of course, can make whatever rules they want. And first, they weren't going to hold the convention. They finally said, okay, it's definitely a go. But this was like in June or something like that. It was before that. April. And they're like, well, there's going to be a mask mandate. We're like, well, we're not going to go. It's fine. It's not like we're going to go in there and show our ass. It was like, tell me what the rules are, and we'll either follow the rules or we won't go to it. And and then around May or something, they said, okay, there's no mask mandate. And they still haven't put a mask mandate in, but the city of Orlando's kind of, could change it at any moment. So I've got a backup plan in case they do. My fear is, so right now it's a go. Masks aren't required. And there's only like 10 of us playing in this DBA thing anyways. And we're in an area where it's not anywhere else. And if you want to wear one, that's cool. I can't understand anybody. And, I don't need to game bad enough where I'm not going to game playing wearing a mask. It's like takes the experience. It's about socializing for me. And, I don't want to go to in a place where it's, what do you say? Huh? I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear well. So, which explains why I usually talk so freaking loud. Because I can't hear well. Everything I watch on TV is with subtitles. So I don't miss something. So we're not going to strong arm them. We're just not going to show up. So my fear is right now is that we'll say we're going to go, we're going to go, we're going to go, and a couple days before it goes, they put the mask mandate. Of course, it's the city of Orlando hasn't done anything, but the hotel can do whatever they want. And you got to follow it. You can't go there and just go, well, I'm gonna wear one, because then it's like you're trying to have a beer when you're 14 years old. You're having to sneak around. I don't need that in my life. It should be a relaxing weekend. So I don't know what we're gonna do. So right now we're running running a full slate of DBA stuff at Huracan, and hopefully we don't have to go to the backup plan. So, which the backup plan is to not hold it, not go to Orlando at all, and still run the event somewhere here locally. So, and I know at least 3 people that are traveling to it that aren't going to go if they force them to do it. That's fine. I don't need to make an ass of myself. It's like if I come into my house and it's like, hey, this is my house. You need to take your shoes off. You either take your shoes off when you come into my house or you don't come to my house. I mean, it's fair. It's their house to do the rules, but they can't strong arm you either. It's like, no, you've got to come and you've got to do this. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't need to game bad enough. So, anyhow, so it's on-ish. That's where we're at. So, why did this come on? I don't want to see that thing. There we go. The city is suing. Well, this too many people on a power trip, and and a lot of people go along with the power tripping people, no matter what the power trip. Because if they just said, well, if nobody would listen to them, it doesn't work. But like I said, I don't think we're ever going to get back to normal. I hope I'm wrong, but there's just too many people going along with everything. In our environment, our convention's not very crowded. It's not like you're going to be in a mosh pit or something like that. It's like going to a restaurant. Like you can go to a restaurant and actually, if we were sitting at a table at a restaurant, all 10 of us would be closer than in proximity than if we're playing a game. And you can do that. So, it really isn't the game. It's socializing and talking smack. Absolutely. I want to go there and just hang out with folks. I don't even care if we play. I mean, I get plenty of gameplay in. But, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm holding off of getting a hotel room because then I have to fight to get my money back. Because, I'm not that old, but there's things that just don't happen anymore. Like, you remember when you used to go pump gas and then you go in and pay for it? That's gone. Same thing with hotels. You would give them your credit card. They would reserve your room. They wouldn't charge your credit card until it was time for your room. And obviously, if you canceled in the last frickin' 24 hours, yeah, they charge you for the room. But these hotels now, they want to charge you now. And then you don't go into the hotel room. I'm sorry. I don't want to not hold all the cards, And I don't want to have to fight to get my money back and all that stuff. So, I'm hoping they don't change something at the last minute and we go and we have it there. And everybody wins, But But yeah, I guess this person that was said, about Florida was, I guess that's what the media's feeding, is that we're all a bunch of crackheads or whatever. I said, well, like I like to say, Florida man came from out of state. We let anybody come into our state, I guess. We're the third most populous state now. Everybody's moving in here, right? California's number one, then Texas, then us. We've surpassed New York and Illinois and Pennsylvania. You don't like Florida, don't come here. I love this state. The weather sucks. It's hot as crap. Unless you're wet. The winter's wonderful. But I can't imagine living anywhere else. I think it's a psychological thing. Maybe that's the same for lots of people. They're like, man, they can't imagine living where they're from, anywhere than what they're from. That doesn't mean I don't want to visit other places. It just like I told my daughter, who's in high school, I said, you don't know what you're going to do for a living. Take what just happened in the last 2 years as a lesson. Who never lost their job? Whose work conditions didn't change any different from depending on a pandemic or what have you? And those people that are out of a job or whatever, that's probably a job. It's probably something you don't need to get into, because I just think it's going to happen again. Mention in one of your game videos that the Mongol army doesn't work well with the DBA system. Why? No horse archer rules? Yeah, correct. No horse archer rules. They work terrible in DBA. Now, they might be balanced for light horse armies, but when you get done playing them, you don't feel like you just got playing Mongols. And I've got some ideas for some house rules that I don't want to introduce them until I have a Mongol army and we play like a historical scenario. We can test them in that. Now, some people are like, well, it wouldn't be fair to make them shoot at a distance with the same numbers. Well, who says they have to be the same numbers? They could be 4 against mounted and 2 versus foot in close combat, but say at a distance. And their distance may be a base width away or half a base width away or something, but not like in contact. Their numbers could drop to 2 and 2. It's not that complicated. Those are not the things that are complicated in DBA. People, and I've taught a lot of different people how to play, the easiest thing that wargamers memorize is what factors are against other units. That's the easiest thing, and how far they move. That's just natural to every game system. That stuff doesn't complicate the game. What complicates the game is, figuring out that, how to align with the other unit. That needs to be simplified, and you can complicate the combat results because people are used to having more complicated combat results. They don't need to be a lot more complicated, but they can have a lot more flavor in them, So yeah, the Mongols, you walk away from the Mongols, you don't feel like you played Mongols, and they should feel significantly different. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're better or worse. They just, moving them around are going to be significantly different, So, always felt the bow shot was a bit piddly, so you could get an extra 100 paces at -1, so why not 1 to 2 for light horse and Saloy? Yeah. So, something really simple could have a significant effect. And I'm gonna give you an example of something that I've thought about that is probably the smallest little change, but would make games dramatically different. If you kept every single thing the same in DBA, but you changed one thing, and it's literally something the size of a frog's hair. And what I'm going to say is that if you all of a sudden made it so that a threat zone, if you're exactly 40 millimeters away, or a base width, okay, because some of you guys may not play in 15 millimeter. If you're exactly a base width away from a unit, you're not threatened. So in other words, the threat zone is normally a 40 by 40 section. Let me find one. Do I have one here? Oh, we have to use the Pope? I guess we'll use the Pope. So if you're exactly 40 millimeters away from a unit, you're in a threat zone. ZOC, whatever you want to call it. Right? If you're a frog's hair out of that, you're not. If you just made it so that you have to be inside this square, so if you're just at the edge, you're not in the threat zone, that would dramatically make a dramatic difference in the game. For example, let's say you take mounted, okay? A mounted unit, when they go into combat with another guy, when they go in this spear, let's say here we go, a little bit better angle here. Don't I have a stand around here? Is that what we're not using? Use an empty stand. No, certainly I got a 40 by 40 laying around here, but we'll just use this. Well, not 40 millimeter difference. 40 millimeter depth. Okay. Obviously, if you outscores the spear dies, right? But if they recoil, mounted can recoil their depth, which is 30, or a base width, 40. And one of the advantages of that is if you have chariots and mounted whatever, chariots are automatically going to recoil 40 because that is their depth. So they don't have a choice. But if you made it so that at 40 millimeter difference is the closest you could be to a unit and it not be threatened, all of a sudden the mounted player can now decide, okay, I'll recoil 30 so I still have them locked down, or I'll recoil 40 so now I am not locked down by the minimum, and then in my next turn I can move laterally and move around. If you did a small difference like that, that would make a huge difference for light horse, because they could come in, strike, and then recoil back and then move again, instead of being hamstrung by not having that mobility advantage. So that's just something to consider, you know, and that's literally a frog's hair difference. You know, it's just assumed because this threat zone the sides don't count, but the back side does. So in other words, the sides don't count because if you have, let me see if I can position this so you can see it on the video. If you have this guy directly in front of him, okay, but if he's not there, this guy's not threatened because the sides of that threat zone don't count. Because if they did, silly stuff would happen. Okay, so if you did the same thing where it's like, okay, your threat zone is this 40 by 40 area, and you have to be inside of it somehow, not just right at it, that would add another little wrinkle level to the game that would make it play significantly different, and wouldn't be any different. So why that was decided to do that way? Well, I think it would improve how light horse would play, you know. +2 at 100 and +1 or 2 for similar skirmisher range weapons. Yeah, even if the skirmishers would just fire half a base width away, you know, that kind of stuff is really hard to explain to people that are new to the game. Like, okay, these guys have bows, cool, but they don't shoot at a distance. What do you mean they don't shoot at a distance? They have bows, by God. What's the problem? Well, it's kind of intricate. Anything that you had to like explain in the rules, and you're not really sold on it yourself. Yeah, that's stuff I would change. It wouldn't necessarily make the game more difficult. It'd be more user friendly. You know, you got to make the game more user friendly to get more players involved in this game, because it really is a wonderful game, but it's got a hard candy shell, and you know, and it's gonna melt in your hand. But anyhow, tiny little things like that can have dramatic effects on the game. So, yeah, Mongols don't play at all like they should in this game. Now, what's funny is you take a game like Armadi, and I heard Armadi is the Mongols are a power army because they can do, they shoot at a distance, they can move backwards as a group together, I think. They have a high initiative number, which the way initiative works in that game is you have a base number for each army, and then you roll a d10, you compare them, and whoever rolls highest gets to pick whether they go first or not. So they get a little bit of they get to decide basically when they get the 2 bounds in a row. Okay, because it could just say, well, I'll let you go first the first bound, and then the next bound they go, and then it's time to roll for initiative again, but then they'll take it and they'll keep it the second time. So it would be like Teutonic Knights bound first, and then Mongol again, then Teutonic Knights. So they could control almost like what was that game that I detest? Third Reich, with the burps and GURPS, and you cash in your burps so you can go in 2 turns in a row, that kind of thing. 8 bow count as 1 stand. Yeah, I think 8 bow are broken. I think 8 bow look awesome, but I do not. The problem with 8 bow, all I would do to 8 bow is they would they'd be a +1 when firing another bow that isn't an 8 bow. They've got to, because that's how they get decimated. I can even rationalize that they're meat for artillery. And they're fine, if they get killed by knights, all right, But if you show up with a bow against an 8 bow, the 8 bow has all of the risk and none of the reward. And I'm telling you, it's massive. I have a couple armies that have 8 bow, and my whole plot is to make sure that they don't get shot at by the other bowmen, because it's a 2-to-2 shot, and if the 8 bow dies, it counts as an extra unit killed. The first one does. That's a big liability, and not to mention the artillery, where they can get eaten to smithereens. But they're a big artillery target. There's lots of guys there, but yeah, they're definitely of all the double elements, they're definitely one of the bad ones. So Ottomans can drop 1 light horse for horde. I don't know. There's other options in DBMM that. The thing about Ottomans is, if you ever looked at Ottoman figures, there's all kinds of janissaries with hand weapons, right? With janissaries with as heavy infantry, and I think DBMM doesn't have it either. Like they're basically bowmen, and it's like the Ottomans need some kind of infantry, but so much of the army lists are just educated guesswork, whether they want to admit it or not. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, at some point you just have to make kind of a judgment call. So there's no point, I think, in trying to, unless it's blatantly wrong, really oust the opinion that Phil Barker has on some of these armies, because then you're just replacing it with your opinion. Because a lot of this information just isn't known. It's just guesswork, and to say that that's not the case is just disingenuous. Especially like Asian armies. There's that one army. What is it? Former Qin. They're involved in one freaking battle or something like that, or a couple battles, and the information just doesn't exist of what their troop composition or proportion. It just isn't there. I mean, either it was never written about, or it was written about and nothing survived. I mean, the stuff isn't available for it. The stuff we want as wargamers just doesn't exist. So you have to pull things out of your ass. What's the smallest viable DBMM size? Double DBA, because you get a lot of figures in them packs. Smallest viable DB... I don't know. Smallest viable DBMM size. Apparently you can play a thing called DBMM 100, which is maybe 1.5 times the size of a DBA army. The problem with DBM is it has so many cool things in there that are added to the game, but it's other things that you would get lost in the Barkerese and get wrong. I just don't have it in me to play 100 games incorrectly before I got one played. It's really unsatisfying. I'd make a terrible cheater, because it's extremely unsatisfying for me to play a game that I missed something or that we got something wrong. It's extremely unsatisfying. Some people may not care, and ultimately, at the end of the day, both sides are playing by the same set of rules, even if you're playing them wrong by accident. But it's extremely unsatisfying to play it wrong, because not only did you play it wrong, but then people are pointing out, "Hey, you did this wrong." I said, "Okay, well, if you know how to play the game, you make the videos." I mean, these are the hardest. The Phil Barker reading Phil Barker rules. They are the. I'm not and don't take this by me saying that he's an idiot or by any means. No, I think he's a genius, but I think he does his style of presentation of the book is just counterintuitive to the way that a lot of us read books. So we invariably get things wrong. And it does a disservice to his awesome rules that you can get wrong, so you wouldn't mind doing double DBA size. Yeah. I like playing with the teammate. I like having just 12 elements. I don't mind more troops. I don't like the game. What I don't like is the game within the game of setting up commands, because that just is a lot of planning that can just go sideways when you roll the wrong pips, and it just reminds me of the kind of stuff I have to do at work. So I do like having a teammate, but I don't like to micromanage them. Just do your own thing. Now, if you're going to ask me what I should do, it's different, but assuming they're not doing something moronic, I don't need to it's just a game, I'm not a micromanager. So, and the game takes too long to get started. It's not that the game lasts too long. It's just that, okay, you guys leave the room while we talk about our strategy. Yeah, I don't want to do that shit no more. That's every other game other than the experiences I've had with DBA. So, some people like that. Not my cup of tea. Now, I do like playing big cooperative games like we've done, like with that Sicily game or the War of the Roses. Those are fun. You're still basically using an army-sized unit and cooperating with other people, but, you can just kind of talk out in the open. I don't just necessarily need a game within the game thing. It just takes a lot of time and, not my cup of tea. I don't like the battlefield when it's too big and I got to lean over a table. And it's not that I'm in that bad a shape, but, you know, it's uncomfortable. And, you know, this is a game of comfort. For me, anyways. And I don't want to paint two of one army. I'd rather paint other armies. So. I want the feel of a bigger battle without necessarily adding more complexity. What I've been doing my own 6mm defender on 40mm square. Get 3 strips of 5 on a base. Yeah, the only problem with doing stuff like that for me would be I'd have to supply the figures for both sides, which I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, that's all I used to do is like, okay, well, I got to build stuff for everybody and then worry about them damaging my stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm past that. I'm like, I'll bring my stuff, you bring yours, and we'll you know, throw down some games. Not that it would be that much of an issue with the people I play with now, but because they're pretty careful. But I've been there, done that. Hello, hello, Seed Sadad. Welcome. Unless that's French, in which case it would be Sado. Welcome, wherever you're from. All right, certainly we got a little bit more. We could have some white too here for the final highlight. And then we can be done with this and we'll go do some pants, which are some kind of a gray type color. Okay, let's go ahead and do this other one. Not French. First way was fine. Sadad. Okay. That's okay. I got no problem with the French. So there's a friend of mine who dislikes anything French, even though he's never made anybody French. I'm not French. I don't have a problem with him. You know, as long as you're wearing deodorant, we're cool. It goes for the Germans too. But as I like to say, you don't get to pick who your mom is or where you're hatched. So where you're from I don't have a problem with people from anywhere. He doesn't like anything French. He won't play the French armies. He won't play Romans either. Like, what's the best glue for putting a flying stand on an MDF base? I have a dwarf glider I'm afraid to touch yet. I use epoxy for everything. I think epoxy is pretty versatile. Now, the thing with MDF is, as I like to call it, it's clipboard material. It's kind of slick. So I would I would probably rough it up with some sandpaper so you get a little bit better grippage. But I use epoxy for everything. So The French are awesome. The problem is they know it. Which French? The mainland French or the island French? This, I heard one time, it said, the English have never beaten the French, but the island French have beaten the mainland French. A little bit of a generalization, but hey, it's humor. Humor is generalizations. Let's clean this thing up. So this is something I've started using recently. Is I use epoxy, and I used to take little pieces of wood, and then they're good for one use. So if you just take a needle, obviously it's filed down so you don't murder yourself. Then if you use that to mix it, then when it dries, you can rehabilitate it and reuse it again. And it's a lot more precise. But I use epoxy for just about everything. It has some flexibility in it. It's stronger than anything else. And I hated epoxy in the 1980s when I was a kid, because I don't know whether the stuff I was getting was just had been sitting on a shelf too long, but it's no good if we don't want to push this on with the end of our finger, because we'll hurt our finger. I'm not made of iron, believe it or not. And yeah, I'm a fan of epoxy, definitely. Sandpaper work fine too, I'm sure. Yeah. Won't play Romans. Heresy. I never played Romans until I played DBA, but I never played medieval stuff either. I don't have anything against Romans. I don't have anything against anybody. I'll play anybody. I always prime my bases with Krylon before texturing and painting. Okay. It's very difficult to find any wargamers up my way, especially in Ancients. Consequently, I have to supply both armies. Yeah, that's a problem, yeah. You find cutting shallow slices with a knife into MDF can help figures stick to MDF. Okay. That's also Christian, man. You guys have 2 setup aids, White, that you use. White, yes. Is there any source for them other than Facebook? Not a fan. Well, I would say send me a message on Facebook and then I'll send them to you directly, but I don't use email anymore. It's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass because you get a thread and then nobody listens to what the other person says, and like my particular email is, the format is very difficult to, it just gets lost. So I don't use email for personal stuff at all. I use Facebook messaging stuff for on there. You don't have to get into the freaking politics stuff. You should definitely have it if you're into DBA, just to have the community thing. I think it's the best thing that happened for war games. You don't have to be into the politics or anything. I don't listen to that shit. But I have my own opinions, and I don't care if people agree with me or not. I'm not a debater. This new generation's fucked, no matter what. So, just forget. I'm only going to be on here another 30 or 40 years, thank goodness. So it's on them. No, definitely do Facebook for that. And if you think the DBA community is really awesome on Facebook, there's not any nasty people on there. Unlike some other groups like car groups. Oh, people in car groups are just brutal. Just brutal. And that's like not even politics stuff. It's just people just being nasty to each other. No, the DBA group is awesome. And that's just an easy way to put a place to put the files, because I'm not a tech person. I don't know how to create some website where people can download things from. I'm not interested in doing that. That takes away from my painting. Some knucklehead that can't paint can do that, That's not therapeutic. That makes me want to wish I never got into wargaming. You just hate those daggy flying stand bases. I was considering using a long screw. Going and knock the underside of the airboat. Well, it depends how thin of a stand you want. You know, depends how thin of a stand. I have that problem too. I actually tried to get into DBA 2 years ago. Caught a few streams here. I was going to do Mongols, not even for my friends and I to play. But I had a problem with my package from Essex. Got lost 3 times by Canada Post. And that put a damper on that. That and COVID. COVID just... So, I forget where it was. My wife ordered something, and she had the option recently to not pick the postal service. I forget what it was. It may have been something. It wouldn't have been Amazon, because Amazon delivers their own stuff frequently, at least here in the States. But it was something where it's like, how do you want this delivered? Do you want it delivered by postal service? Do you want it delivered by UPS, pay an extra $2 or whatever? And she's like, I'm just pay the extra $2. I don't want to deal with the postal service. The postal service sucks. Okay, they'll tell you it's coming, it's late. They don't explain why. They tell you delivered it, but it shows up the next day. They'll try to deliver it to your door at 2:00 in the afternoon while everybody's working, and then you have to go to the post office and get it. You know, they have no competition, so they suck. You know, I hate the postal service, and I'm sure the postal service everywhere else is the same. It's got to be better than it here. So. Thanks for the brainstorming. Thanks for your company, man. I appreciate you coming by. See you next time, man. For sure. COVID's weird. You know, the first thing I ordered after COVID from the UK, and historically, I get better service from the UK than US suppliers. I don't know whether they're more efficient, or the people here just, I don't know. The UK vendors, Museum, Essex, others. There's the only 2 I can think of right off the bat. They'll send it to you immediately. You know, you'll order like on a Monday, you get it the following Monday. That was Museum for the longest time. And COVID messes everything up. Last time I ordered from something from one of those folks, I don't remember who it was anymore. They sent it out, and it sat a week in Heathrow trying to get processed, or there weren't enough people to do it, or whatever. It sat like a week, so it took almost 3 weeks to get something that would normally get it in a week. And that was just, I don't know, whether shorthanded or extra protocols they had to follow, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So if I do have to order something from overseas, I make sure to give them extra time to get here, because I kind of got in the bad habit of them being really efficient. And, you know, so I don't know how that's changed, because in the same time period, you know, the freight rates just got stupid. Now I heard it's, you know, they raised the freight here from the UK, so the UK responded, and there's some kind of a Cold War between freight prices. I don't know what it is, but, you know, the shipping just got stupid, because it used to be just as cheap to get something from the UK as it did from the United States. I mean, obviously you had the exchange rate difference, but that's not a huge difference. It's like you got to pay an extra 15%, you know? It's not a big deal. I get to watch you painting while I'm at work. Perfect. Always nice to have you along, Dirk. They just delivered some flags for Flags of War, and it was all bent. Yeah, they suck. I say let's go take them out. Let's call in SEAL Team 17 and take them out. That's where I'm at. Limited extra services that don't cost an arm and a leg. Yeah. I don't like anything that doesn't have competition. Competition makes us all better. You know, if you work at a company and you're the only guy that makes that widget, you're just not going to give a shit. You know, if you work somewhere where if you don't do a good job, they're going to fire your ass, you know, it's probably going to help you doing a better job. Now, it may not work everywhere, because if I'm going to do something, I want to do a good job. It doesn't feel good to do something wrong, you know, generally. But you need competition. You got one mail service. They raise their rates. What are you going to do? You know? Utility company. We don't have enough. We're going to have enough to cover the retirement of our employees. Well, we'll just raise the millage rate on that. What are you going to do? Buy a freaking generator? You know, competition makes things good. So, you know, you want cell phone services to be really bad? Yeah. Let them all merge and you have one cell phone company. I don't know how they get away with having so few things. Isn't that what... It's called antitrust. Isn't that what the government's supposed to be doing? Anyhow. 10 millimeter is the future. Dream on. Not for me, it's not. I'm not starting over. Pretty much only buy from UK sellers. Yeah, it's the land of toys. Leon from Pendragon is wonderful. Best customer service I've experienced. That's great. Yeah. I would do more things in 6 millimeter if there was more figure variety. And don't, you know, you can't say, well, they just look like ants, paint them up. No. I would do like Renaissance or something like that in 6 millimeter. Or even 10s. They just don't have the variety I would want. That's fine. I got enough on my plate anyways. I don't need to go traipsing around in other periods. I'm busy right now. I got plenty of... I got so much 15 millimeter stuff that... Which is funny, because 15's not really my scale. My scale's 20s. You know, the first figures I ever painted were 20 millimeter World War II stuff. Those old combat miniatures. Love those things. But, you know, they make a limited amount of, you know, it's only for World War II stuff because it goes with all the 172nd, 176 scale tanks that they had way back when. So I got a mountain of those things as well. But for this, yeah, I want variety of manufacturers. I like to mix all the manufacturers. It's fun. I enjoy that part. And I think just about every manufacturer makes worthwhile figures to paint, as long as I get to pick them. You know, I don't want to just be like, okay, well, I'll buy the Essex Army pack and I'll paint whatever they send me. You know, I have no problem with Essex, but I want to buy the packs because I'm going to spend, you know, about 3-4 hours painting each figure. I want to have input on which figure it is, not just, well, these are the ones we couldn't sell, so here you go. And I've actually had that happen twice to me, buying Army packs for a different rule set. I got burnt, and I'm like, I swear I'm never buying Essex Army packs again. Would have more pack for me to do it. Way too deep in 15. 6 Pendragon, 6 millimeter Micro World Renaissance is very, very good. Figure is the only thing holding 10 millimeter back. I do 15, 6s, and 2s. There's less chaotic. I would have boiled down to 10, especially when printing now. Yeah. I've had several people say, you should get a 3D printer. I'm like, you don't understand. That doesn't fit my personality type. Because as soon as things go wrong or it doesn't print right or, you know, you get halfway in and you don't want to be around me. That and all those 3D printers are made in that place, in that country where I can't buy things from, aren't they? So that's a deal breaker for me. That place I don't allow myself to buy things from. I'm not going to buy their crap. And I have enough things to paint. You know, if I need something 3D printed, I'll go order it from, who's these people from? Dungeon Torch or whatever. You know, they're the experts in doing that. I'm the painter, okay? So I'll paint. Let people specialize in the things that they're good at. Only Essex part that is disappointing me is Knights of St. John. Still waiting for the right guys to replace a few figures. Yeah. Mr. Rick, welcome. I wanted to join on your Battlefields of Mana army list, but I've been too busy. So sorry, maybe next time. I'll give you the killer army, whatever. I even have a name for the army, or the style of play of it, but it'll have to wait till next time. So, is it true that the older you get, the smaller scale figures you prefer? No, generally it's the other way around. Generally, it's people can't see, so they go bigger. Action figures when you were a kid. Well, that's true, because that's what's made. 28 millimeter when you're a teen, 15 when you're an adult, 10 millimeter less when your gray hair appears. No, it's actually the opposite. Most historical war gamers are about 10 years older than I am. So they tend to be around 60. I'm 50, or so they say. I don't feel like it. I feel like I'm 30 with 20 years of bullshit I'm not going to put up with anymore. I guess that makes me old just by saying that. Oh well. But a lot of the stuff is, a lot of people go to 28s now because they can't see. My reason for not doing 28s is if I spend 4 hours on these, I'm going to have to spend 12 on 28s. And I don't have time for that. You know, I don't have painting time for it. Forget cost. You know, if these cost what 28s did and 28s cost what 15s, I'd still do these. Because the time I spend on them is the resource that's the biggest problem. So, there's still time. I just recorded my first battle report today. Ended up coming down to the final die roll. Oh, you want me to send you an army list? I'll send you an army list. I'll send you one by tomorrow morning. Okay? I thought you were already posting what people's things are. I'm like, well, I don't want to hold up the whole process. My eyesight is terrible. I just do me best. Rick? Yeah, Rick's got a channel. He's got all kinds of... Rick has so many freaking games, it's insane. I don't know how he keeps them all straight. He's got a nice game room. Rick proves all the nice stuff you can have if you don't have to share it with anybody. He's got the bachelor pad there for nicest game room looking place I've ever seen. You could like sell things like a store. It's like your own storefront. And he's a really good cook. He's got some things on there. He's got some really great videos to show you how to make a milkshake and waffles. You should check those out. They're a hoot. Although you should rename that one video "How to Get Your Ass Kicked by a Milkshake." Yes, under my real name here. Yeah, you're one of those people like me that uses their real name. It just simplifies things. It really does. It's not that, you know, we want to be famous. It's just like, you know, if you went by Rick the Gamer, you're like, which Rick are you? Oh, you're that guy. You know, it just simplifies things, you know. Speaking of milkshake, so you cook about as much as I do. I assemble the shit out of things, okay, but I don't cook. But I've always had a problem with using a blender because I don't know whether it's I'm not a science guy. That's going to be one of my sayings. I'm not a science guy. I'm not. I really am not. And sometimes a blender, whether you don't have the suction or whatever going right, it doesn't blend the things right. And that's the problem that I always get stuck. So I don't like using a blender for anything because it has suction issues. You know what I mean? Like it jams. Like you start whatever it is that you're blending, and it'll blend at the bottom, and then the top doesn't go, and then you end up having to stick a spoon in there. You know. Oh well. John Carter, there you are. It's late, but I'm fanning about with a budgie crit. Yes. Nice. Nice, that's right. Use all the sayings in one place. Cheerio. Garter of Mars. That's different. Garter of Mars sounds like some weapon that they would have in when you go into space. Well, make sure you're wearing the Garter of Mars to protect you. It's +6 versus, space lances. Big T, the DBA gamer. Well, you know, I'm going to eventually have things on here that aren't DBA, but it's apparently that didn't work out too well. But you like green fruit smoothies. Hopefully cancels out years of caffeine and nicotine. There's nothing wrong with caffeine. Don't you be talking bad about that. Without caffeine, nothing would get done. Green fruit smoothies, nothing wrong with that either. Fruit, man. I know lots of people that don't like fruit. You know what I say to those people? What's wrong with you? Fruit's good. It's nature's candy. High tea gaming. Vitamin T gaming. That's what I should use as my handle, Vitamin T. You know what I call vitamin T? Tequila. Yeah. I don't like getting on a plane until I have some vitamin T. Not that I drink that much. I really don't. Hey, my last name's not Harbach. Gaming and drinking never went together. I started underage, so maybe that was part of it. And everything that I gamed always involved thinking. You know, whether you were range estimating a naval game or, you know, it's a thinking game. Yeah, it's fun, but, you know, you can't be like trashed and play one of those things. It just... Press T to roll for pips. I guess people really like that the blind general hidden pip thing. I don't know. If I ever come up with my set of rules, that would be the rule. You would have to, you wouldn't know what you rolled. I could just use my initials. I could just call it TNA. I'm sure that website's already taken. Oh, man. Nah, alcohol really is about using it to do things to get you through things you don't like to do, whether it's getting on a plane, social situations that are awkward, mowing the lawn, you know, getting the Serbs done next time they can be on the field of battle. Okay, well, they got the Hungarians they got to face. You'll get a little bit more beverage and use the boys' room. I'll be right back. Man, we got up to 10 people. Thank you, folks. Be right back. Yeah, so if I wasn't filming all this, right, I'd probably be more efficient. So, in other words, if I wasn't sitting here conversating with you guys, then I'd probably be more efficient. However, I wouldn't have been doing this for an hour and 47 minutes. I would have gone off and done something else. So at the end of the day, I'm better off doing this. Boy, this water doesn't last here very long. Look at it, it's still crinkling up. Well, we'll replace this thing when we're done with these damn crossbowmen. So, what did... you got served. That's awesome. That is... you. That's awesome. Brilliant. Brilliant, James. Good one, sir. You've been served. Oh, I love it. Are You Being Served? One of my favorite British comedies. That's the one with the frickin' woman with the crazy colored hair. I never saw that. That's from like the 1980s, isn't it? These puns are dragging on a bit. I don't want to balkanize the chat. Oh boy. Now that COVID is over, is it? I'm going to get back at a DVA. Going to put the Mongols aside for now. I'm going to go with New Kingdom Egyptian. That's a great army to use. The New Kingdom Egyptian army only has one problem. You know what it is? Everybody has them. That's the only problem with that army. That is a really great army. You know, you've got thirds. You got a third mounted, you got a third heavy foot, and you have a third shooters. The problem is everybody has them. So, like, I'll never build that army because I know 3 people I play with frequently that have that army. Like, it's not like I have a love of. Well, I mean, they look cool. I mean, who doesn't like Egyptians, right? It's all fun and games until you get buried in with a pharaoh. Go with Philistines. Yeah, the Philistines is a good army too. Mm-hmm. Over in my area, I live on an island. All right, what island do you live on? I bet it's smaller than Greenland. What is the biggest island? Australia? I know, it's a continent. Well, it's an island too, damn it. Island. I want my own island so I can design a flag. I'll tell you what, I don't want to live anywhere that I can't have this cable modem thing. So I've been way too many years without it. I got to keep this thing going, so. Or, you know, what's the one that that they weren't going to put in our neighborhood? Fiber. Yeah. Newfoundland. Newfoundland. Ah. Man, it's cold and wet up there. Maybe not right now, but. Okay, let's paint. Oh, we're still doing pants. Oh well. Yeah, you definitely have a lot more gamers if you live in the UK. Basically, because wargaming, that's where it started, as far as I can tell. And like here in Florida, there's just too many other things to do. Well, too many people. To be honest with you, too many people get involved in too many different things. You know, you can't have time to go. Forget cost. You know, you got to go to work. Given you got to go to work, and you got to spend time with family, and then you got to, you know, you can't do wargaming, computer games, and watching television, and going to hockey games, and you know, there just isn't enough time in the world to do all that stuff. So, you know, like what I pretty much do is the only hobby I have is this. I mean, yeah, I can play some computer games in and of it in between, but You know, I don't watch sports. I don't really watch television, or if I do, I don't watch it by myself. I tie that into a family activity, you know. So definitely not now. Heat wave. You can do two hobbies well. I do music and wargaming. I'm not musical. I am not musical. You know, we're not all made the same, and that's okay. You know, some people are musical; they can play a guitar, and then they can't paint or draw. I'm like, well, painting and drawing is easy. Yeah, because I got the skill set that does that. You know, no, that's excruciatingly difficult. You know, I don't have the skill set, and I don't want to do it bad enough. It's like a double whammy, right? Like I don't really want to sit there and practice guitar all the time. So you don't mind cooking and reading. Sanity has increased since ignoring all politics. Yep, ignore all politics, pretty much. Music and wargaming. Gore. I've actually never heard them, but I know what you're talking about. That's some crazy shit, isn't it? That makes Slipknot make sense. Yeah, I know somebody who's really into that, but that's just like that's some messed up stuff. And I'm okay with heavy metal stuff, but I'm kind of, you know, I like the oldie stuff. Maiden, Priest, that kind of stuff. Gore. You know, I love making terrible noise on analog synths. Sometimes I can use a computer to beat it into a rough song shape. Your family and community are more important than politicians and corporations. Absolutely. And lawyers. Yep, absolutely. Yep. I wish more people would realize that. Yep. And it doesn't matter the politician. Yeah, I don't listen to the news. Haven't for a long time. If you do listen to the news, listen to how much of it is, oh, you need to worry about this. Oh, here's another thing you haven't worried about. Oh, you think you've worried about everything there is? Well, here's something else that's coming out to get you. That's all it is constantly. And it's like most of it is things that don't apply to you. There's nothing you could do about it, you know. Dungeons. I'm gonna have to listen to some of that stuff or attempt to. I don't know. I've just seen the costumes. Yeah, it's probably super, 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 super heavy. You know, and I'm okay with, you know, metal stuff. But I do a little thing. I've been extremely tired last couple of weeks, but we have a little thing called a Peloton, which is a bike that you could do like different rides on. It's a great way to get some exercise on there, and you could customize it with different kind of music, and you can do different rides and stuff like that. So they'll do like an 80s ride or a rock ride or country or, you know, different kind of things, and they'll have a metal one, and I'm like, okay, well, that ought to be pretty cool. Yeah, they got stuff on there I don't care for. It's too noisy, you know, too noisy kind of stuff. So metal's not all the same, you know. Anyhow, I'm tired of the case count on TV. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the DBA community is pretty cool. I'd say all war gamers, but there's just some people like I used to go on the miniatures page all the time, and I hear it's really bad now. I don't go on there anymore, but it really went downhill when they started adding different categories like food. Like who wants to talk about food? I mean, let's just talk about wargaming stuff. You know, that's what we're here for. But there's just too many people that like to. I guess there's lots of people that just like to like poo-poo other stuff, and you know, I don't know. People that couldn't get into law school and want to argue all the time. I'm not one of those people. You know, if I like a color and you don't like it, well, that's cool. You know, you don't have to paint your car. You don't have to buy a car in that color. You know, I don't care. Try listening to Drudk. I'm not a metal guy, but it definitely has this ambient dark metal Transylvanian forest feel. Cool. Yeah, the Fanaticus forum isn't what it used to be. There's some arguing people there. There's some argument people on there. I'm gonna get my little notepad so I can check that out. There's a thing called, I didn't know it was a thing, called, what am I doing this? I guess I could use this as a notepad. Is it folk metal? But it has no lyrics, which is perfect. Okay, because, you know, it could just be like ambient. But there's some really good stuff on YouTube on there. Like, really, really good stuff on there. And usually, you know, things can be too heavy, or they might be okay, but then they add lyrics that are just like take it way over the top. But if you don't have any, perfect. We're going to write this down what this is. Drudkh. Drudkh. Cool. I love instrumental stuff. Because then it can be about whatever the hell you want it to be about. Not like, you know, the guy sleeping with his sister, or whatever, you know, you decided to make the song about. You know? Hope to stimulate too. Oops. Yeah, Drudkh is instrumental. Yeah. I love instrumental stuff. There's a guy on here that's, I gotta find what it is. It is a guy from Finland. All right, we're gonna find out what this guy is. Hold on a second. He has a name that starts with an A, so we're gonna do folk metal Finland instrumental. Okay, that's what my Google search is gonna be, and he is a guy named. Okay, so go on YouTube and do a search for this item, and it's really, really cool. This is a guy called, I think it's a one-man band, literally, and his name is Antti, A-N-T-T-I, Martikainen, Antti Martikainen, Martikainen. He has a 25-minute video. It's actually beautiful, and it has background scenes of Finland. And this particular video is if the subject is called Kalevala, Kalevala, and that's pretty cool. That's metal, but it's not over the top, in your face. It's got nice melody, almost all of it. Yeah, I like things that have melody. You know, if it's just noise, like, never been a fan of anything Metallica. It's just too. First of all, you're missing a guitar. You need to have at least 2 guitars in there, and it needs to be more melodic and harmonious. Whatever word I'm thinking of. I'm not a music guy, so maybe I mean melody when I meant harmony. But you get the point. It's got to flow. That video is awesome. It's beautiful too. The backgrounds are so like that. There's a lot of other things out there. I didn't know about that until, like, I don't know, maybe a year ago, whatever. That's Yeah, we'll check out Drudka. It's Transylvanian, huh? Well, those guys are going to come up soon. Those Transylvanian jokers are coming up soon with their little home. Their little, where is that? I got that thing handy. Yeah. Dracula's Castle. What we're going to do is when we start working on that army, we'll do this first. We're not going to wait till the end. So we'll do this one first. We got to do the Amorites. Probably roll into these guys next. The Wallachians. Bronze Age, pretty good era for me. I'm going to collect armor too. Just to know the cultural time period. Plus, love Egyptians already. Easy sell. Yeah. Yeah, I like instrumental stuff a lot because then it can be about whatever you want it to be. You know, I don't hear well, so I can't understand the lyrics anyways. I'll check that out. There's great stuff on YouTube. I'm not talking about my crap. Not that it's crap, but I'm just saying, there's some really, 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 really talented people on there. Got back into, it'd been a while. I'd left it for a few months. I got back into watching the guys that are doing the die-cast racing stuff. That is just, I gotten so much chuckles from that. That guy's so freaking talented. I know how much time he spends on working on that to get his product so freaking good, but that is hilarious. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up 3D bot maker racing. And that guy's a guy from California. He's a one-man show, and he's doing multiple voices and 5 different cameras. And all he's doing is he's taking these Matchbox Hot Wheels cars and pushing them down this track that's, it's landscaped like something real, and he's announcing it and playing it just like it's a real race with qualifying laps, and he's got a timer. It's freaking phenomenal. It is better quality than most things on television, and I think he's doing it for free. So, he doesn't need my endorsement. He's got 10 times, no, he's got 50 times as many people as I do as subscribers, but he does a hell of a job. Started watching this stuff again. Anything you watch that you're just like you're by yourself and you're laughing out loud, that's some good quality stuff. He's a very talented individual. Also a guy named Ogre for anyone who likes John Carpenter style soundtracks. Okay. Has that vibe. Not sure with a guy called Ogre. All right. Ogre. He's probably a little guy, is he? And his associate Majeur. Great gaming music, if a little bit more electronic. Okay. The Battle of Portland owns sound cues one day. Yep. Yeah, the problem with using sound is you got to make sure you don't use something that's copyrighted, or you get into trouble. Even if you're just doing it to not try to make money off the people. People don't like doing that. I don't know. I've always been like, use other people's stuff, but give them credit for it. You got to give people credit, but I don't know. People have rules and stuff like that. Ogre does a beautiful Blade Runner inspired soundtrack. So I'd never seen that movie. Okay, I've never seen Blade Runner until a month ago. I'm like, well, I hadn't seen this. It's on HBO. I'll watch it with my daughter. She hasn't seen it either. And I waited too long to see that movie because it does not aged well. You know, I watched like 20, 30 minutes of it. Wasn't captivated by it, and you know, it may be a great movie. I just waited, you know. I can't wait to watch it when I'm 50, you know what I mean? So it just didn't captivate me. But it's one of those movies that just about everybody said, hey, this is a great movie. You know, there's actually very few movies that are that way. Just never got around to seeing it. It was a rated R movie, and it came out. I was 11 years old. So, you know, if I wasn't going to see it at the movie theater. And if I didn't get around to seeing it, it was just kind of, you know, just kind of fell off to the wayside. So. But I heard the new one. No one likes the new one. Whatever it's, what is it, Blade Runner 2049, whatever. Don't really like Blade Runner, but the new one is great. Oh, well, you are the one that likes it. Okay. I just heard. I don't know. Maybe I watch it and I'll like it, but. Do you like the fourth Indiana Jones movie? Because nobody liked that one either. So maybe you're the guy that likes things that nobody else likes. I know this one guy that bless his heart, he's so damn positive. He likes just about every movie, and I'm kind of the opposite. I don't like most movies. I think that they're the acting is generally not bad. It's usually they'll rush things that don't need to be rushed, and they take too long with things that should be moved out of the way. But remember, they're not making a movie to make it good. They're trying to make a buck. So, you know, their reasoning may be different than yours and mine for watching the movie. No, I think it's valid. I personally like the old one, but a lot has happened since then. Bit like you might not like the Beatles, but you can see how they inspired a lot of stuff that is more sophisticated. I haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones. You haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones movies? You've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? You've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? Oh my God. Oh my God. That's like the best movie ever. I remember seeing it in the movie theater. That's a great freaking movie. I only have, like, other than the RPG scene, they could have used something other than that. Oh my goodness. That's my favorite movie. If somebody says, what's your favorite movie? That one. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Easy. You know, I may actually have the one that I like more, but that's just the one that comes to mind. Indiana Jones. No. Yeah, you'd have to do some kind of different version of it. Actually, it'd be a fun Bollywood spoof Indiana Jones. You could try and bust into museums, take back artifacts. There could be a lot of dancing. Of course, it would be dancing. No, you should see it. You should see it. Show yourself out. That's okay. There's things I haven't seen that everybody's like, how can you not have seen that? I'm not a big science fiction fan. So there's a lot of science fiction movies I haven't seen because it's just not a thing that I like, you know. Wow. And again, you may see it now and be like, what's the big deal? You know? You might not like the Beatles, but you see how they inspired a lot of stuff. Did they inspire a lot of stuff? I don't dislike them. I like the stuff that they did before they started smoking that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't like, I tend to not like music that is chaotic in nature. So stuff that changes all over the place is like, you know, Not my thing. Um, but I guess maybe that is, maybe that's a strong suit for certain bands. Like, lots of people really like Led Zeppelin. And other than like a couple songs, maybe even only one, I don't care for their music. But, but, they did do a lot of things that were not similar to each other. So a lot of their songs are very different from each other. And that's kind of what I don't, they're kind of the, what would that be? That would be the anti-AC/DC, where every song sounds the same. A lot of their songs sound drastically different from each other. And it's not my cup of tea, but I get it, you know? They started smoking those artifacts. Yeah. Indiana Jones were before my time. I'm just a youngin'. Well, that happens. Yeah, I can see that. I don't do black and white movies. You know, I don't mind foreign movies. I don't mind old movies. I just don't like things that are black and white. So, I feel like I'm missing something. So, I really like Bowie, even though he is wearing his wife's clothes in half of his work. Well, you know, artists are weird. You know, artists are weird. His stuff's kind of all over the place too, right? He does a lot of. I haven't really listened to a lot of his stuff, to be honest with you, but yeah. Anyhow, lots of people like Pink Floyd. I've never done drugs, so they don't do anything for me. You know. That doesn't mean that, you know, things I don't like aren't necessarily have any talent. They just don't appeal to me, you know. But that's why there's lots of different kind of music, you know. Oh man. We're talking about everything today. That's good. It's good. Keeps it fresh. Keeps it fresh. Well, the only thing I don't like about what's happening here is the color of his jacket is almost the same color as his leggings. Yeah. I think we may have to do the leggings like a little bit more white, just to make it stand out from his jacket color. Nordic Bronze Age. But who makes figures for him? I bet you could make some with, is it cobblestone? Is it cobblestone that makes him 15 millimeter stuff? And then there was a company called, oh, I want to say it's a company from Australia. Something Y Miniatures. Is it MY Miniatures? That makes something like that. Somebody makes them, but it's only like one company. I don't know. No flags for me, so I'm out. I think the army lists are actually decent. You know, I think the army lists are actually like competitive. They're not like, you know, all warband or something like that. You know, you got some chariots, and seems like they'd be very. You could have some fun with them. Like you could make them do like some Conan the Barbarian type of looking things. You know, inspired by that. Have some fun with it. We'll just brighten this up a little bit more on the highlighting. Is it cobblestone castings? Something like that. They look, the castings look very Games Workshop-ish, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They actually look really good. They're very, caught you. Very heroic looking. I forget who it is. Somebody makes them. Or somebody makes stuff that you could make work for that. But that's the thing is there's so much stuff. You're going to find something that is that you're going to gravitate towards, that you could be inspired by, and then turn around and the next thing you do be something totally different. Like, I'm tired of painting red. Okay, so pick an army that doesn't have a bunch of red in it, you know? Or maybe you're tired of drab and you want some bright colors, you know? It's 3,500 years of different stuff you can, which actually doesn't sound like it's that much, but you know, you could find something different to make. Just a figure availability, you know. I have to find out who it is that makes it. Somebody, they make like bears and stuff like that too. It's got to be like cobblestone or something like that. We should get chariots, warband, and solar. Depends on the sub list. And no plow, but milking cows. The protein edge against those Neolithic Anatolian mantlets and their grain diet. You love barbarians. Okay? I was talking to someone who said AB 18mm Napoleonics are just 15mm heroic scale. Gonna put them alternative armies, mammoth howdah one day. Esoteric Conanism. Is it cobblestone castings? I'll find out for you guys right now. Alright. Use my Google Foo. What we're going to do a search for is 15mm Barbarian Miniatures. Let's see what we got here. Cobblestone castings. How do I know this stuff? Because I'm a surfer. Far out, man. Oh yeah, they make cool. This stuff is cool. Obviously, you'd have to stop short of the snow trolls, but they make like a wolf pack or something like that, don't they? Yeah, because they make barbarians, dwarves, ice tribes, picts. That's their own type of pick dudes. Picked characters. Oh, well, these are more like, you could use these guys for like Cro-Magnon versus who are those guys that didn't make the gene pool? Wow, you know who I'm talking about. Oh yeah, these are awesome figures. These are awesome figures. Barbaricum. Yeah, it's cobblestone castings. Check them out. 15mm. They make some awesome looking stuff. Yeah. Why can't I think who it is? Neanderthals. That's what it is. Neanderthals. Yeah, there's just a limited amount of time to do everything. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind doing Saga, play Saga in this scale, little 15s. But, I don't have time for everything. At the end of the day, I'm better off painting stuff for this silly game because I know that I'm going to get a lot of games out of them. We're going to put them in movies and stuff like that. It just makes sense. It makes sense to do that for me. I just have a limited amount of time to do this. It takes me long enough to do this sort of thing, so I don't need to go in a different direction. Even though I do look at figures and go, oh man, that would be so cool to, to do this, that, and the other, but. And I don't really have any interest in playing Hordes of things, mainly because the mechanics of DBA and that are different. Even when we're playing DBA 2.2, the conforming and stuff is just different in Hordes of the Things, and it's like, you don't want to get confused doing that kind of stuff. But if the core rules were the same, then although I don't know that many people that want to do fantasy, but there are people that would do fantasy, and yeah. Neanderthals, there we go. There's Neanderthal genetics in modern humans. I know, I work with some of them. Neanderchats. Some people have more Neanderthal genes than others, yeah. I'll check my armpits. Saga and Lion Rampant are two rules I'm very tempted by. Check out Lion Rampant first. I think it's a little bit more flexible for what you want to do, Rick. Saga is very much that control board and how you manage that thing, which is a game in and of itself. But Lion Rampant, you could do a lot of different stuff. It's hard enough to get my friends to play the games I already had, let alone something new. Yeah, Lion Rampant is great. Tony, wash your mouth out regarding Hot. It's the game the sages played. No, they should have made conforming the same to both. That's really what makes the DB games complicated, is their wonky conforming crap. And who can interpenetrate between that crap. The factors, and it's like, we could just have a DBA game and add riders or wolves or beasts. That's cool. That's easy to figure out. But to like, oh, well, now you do conform differently. I'm too old for that crap. I don't like Saga because too many supplements. Yeah. Yep. I'd like to play it one time. That managing of that thing is really, really cool. I have the Hordes of the Things game, but I just don't understand why they both didn't have the same mechanics, and they could have gone with either one. I wish they would have just picked one. It would have just been really nice to. I'm going to use my Papal army. Oh yeah, well, I'm going to use freaking trolls. Cool, let's go at it. I may have painted a fantasy army, skeletons, or what fantasy creature you guys like? I was always a fan of minotaurs. I think minotaurs are really freaking cool. I'm asking myself, I'm doing myself a disservice and I stick in a hot basing rules. 15 millimeters to my chagrin, just too small for my tired old eyes. I use my lovely hot conforming is corner to corner. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, the whole reason for me to play fantasy is I can make like funny noises for the creatures. That's the appeal, I mean, I guess I could do that anyways, but yeah, those cobblestone castings look definitely very, very cool. Very cool. But I don't need to spread out even more what I'm already doing. We need to do the handle to this. I'm actually probably going to replace this before I finish all the crossbowmen because it's getting out of control. There's, what happens is you every time you put this paint down, the area around it doesn't conform to this as well, so it ends up like crinkling. But these things are freaking cheap. I bought this thing, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and I've gone through maybe half of the papers, so it's not like I'm in a paper shortage. I mean, sure, I don't want to. Well, actually, I found a place to order them from. I think eBay. They have them on eBay. And the shipping isn't too bad, so if I do run out, I at least figured out what that is. Oh, and I got to do hair, too. Actually, I thought it was later than it is. It's only 9:30. We may yet get these guys done tonight. There's still hope. All right, and let's add a little bit more of this. Holy shit. You guys are on a roll. Okay, I've been looking at DBM. How similar is it roundabout to DBA rules wise? I know Phil did not sure how much carries over. A lot of it carries the same, but it's just a lot more complicated. Beastmen are cool. Alright. You're boring. You like elves, dwarves, orcs, and undead. There's nothing boring about undead. I like skeletons. Skeletonians. Feel like I'm painting a house when I do 28 millimeter. Really just need to paint a wizard for one. Yeah, Kurosan makes some pretty beastmen and minotaur. I didn't know that Kurosan made beasts. Cool. Just use this army and make the Pope shoot lightning bolts. There you go. Easy fantasy army. That's right. Alternative armies. I like the way alternative armies look. I'm not a fan of... Splintered Light. They look weird. They look like they've got lots of details. They're very like malnourished and in awkward poses. Most of them. They were a big thing like 10 years ago. Now they've kind of, well, maybe there's people that still do them. Or I don't know. I just haven't heard a lot about them recently. What did I do with that brown? Yeah, see, this is why you replace this. I'm like, okay, where did I leave off? There it is. It's over here. Somebody flying with a rice burner. Don't hear that stuff like you used to anymore. You don't hear people driving by with loud music like they used to. Guy zipped by, sounded like he was on one of those crotch rockets. A lot of 15 millimeters have weird quirks, like Peter Pig's faces. It's their jaws, not necessarily their faces. Yeah, they have like this Habsburg chin going on. Yeah, I kind of like them, but 3 dots made with a toothpick. Not sure the older popes could do that. They got up to some wild stuff back in the day. Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things when I play this Pope army is the armies where the Pope was present prior to the 16th century usually lost. So, these guys would have a win-loss record if we're doing historically, kind of like my Ottoman Turks. So, I think I'm going to do better than they did historically. they may have a losing record, but they're going to do better than they did historically, which isn't saying anything, but it's a small little bit of comfort in that. But, you know, more than anything else, I think it's going to be fun to play. I think they're going to be a bit defensive. A bit of a defensive army, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think they're going to be defensive, kind of like my... Well, maybe they won't be like my Sung Chinese. My Sung are very defensive. But they have a lot of units that they need to be protected. And I don't think that's the case on these guys. These are pretty solid, but they... Oh, well, we just have to see. I expect you guys stand. Honestly, I can get a few colors and a couple washes neatly. Good day. Imagine how nervous you get when you're whole working and your manager is looking over your shoulder. Now imagine your manager can talk to God. Yeah. Yeah, he's a cool figure. Although I tell you what, I still, even though I've painted so many figures, well, not compared to some other people, I feel like I'm still learning stuff. Okay? So what did I learn with this army? Even though they're not complete. No, most of it's complete. That I'm going to do the trim on flags now not in black, but the base color of the flag. Because when you do the black edging, you know, obviously you need to do the edging because you printed it out and you're going to have white showing, right, on the two pieces, right? You're going to have the two pieces like this and white showing. So you got to cover that with something. I don't care how good you glue, one's going to be higher than the other. So in trying to paint this one black and this one that's just a little bit lower black, you end up getting some of this black on the side here. It's a pain in the ass. And even with my contacts out and my zoomed in vision, you just can't get it right. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to try to color match this red because the red is off of a printer. And it's relatively easy to do. I did a couple things that are differently. One of the things is that when you fold this over this spear, which in this case is a needle, what always ends up happening is you glue it, and then there's always some of the inside showing, which you can see like that from the top, right? Well, there's always white showing, and then you can't get in there and paint the inside. So what I did is, before I closed it up, I painted a little bit of the part that was going to show at the top, and I think at the bottom, even though it really didn't matter, in that red color. So now when I fold it over, if there's any color showing, it's still red, okay? So I did that, and then I just edged it in a red, and that was easier because then then if I overlapped on that color, it wasn't that big a deal. So this is what we're going to do from now on, and that's the frustrating part about doing the flags is I was trying to get that black border, and you can't get it right, and it doesn't need to be black. It just needs to not be white, and I think it turned out really well. Considering the printing quality really isn't that good. I mean, it is on a laser printer, but the image quality isn't superb, but it's better than what I would have done by hand. Well, I don't want to spend 20 hours doing this flag, which is what I would have done. Maybe 10, but still a long-ass time. So, I made Perfect Enemy good for way too long. Now I'm cranking them out. Saw part of a movie, An Obscure Battle. Portuguese versus North African Arabs in late 1500s. Where are these minis from, Tony? Essex. They are a mixture of all kinds of stuff. So, from the top. Let's see. Let's get a place that... Okay. Okay. This monk is a monk figure from museum. This guy is a monk figure. Let's see if I can use this figure down here. The standard bearer from Essex. Okay, he actually had like a really big wackadoo mace. He had like a larger than man sized mace, like an 8-foot mace. And I'm like, that just doesn't work. So I took that out of his hand and I made him the standard bearer. Okay, that thing would have been so big that there's no way he would have been able to swing it twice. unless it was hollow, in which case he'd crack it over somebody's head, and you'd be able to use it one time. It just didn't work. So he was an obvious standard bearer. These 4 guards on the corner, I have no idea who makes the miniatures for them. I got them from some figures that Kevin Mello gave me. He had a brother that passed away a few years ago, and he had all kinds of figures. I have no idea who the hell these little manufacturers of these guys are. I've never seen pictures of them online, which means they're really old school. Some people have said, oh, they're so-and-so, and I've looked them up, and they don't come up as them. So I'm not sure who makes these 4 little guard figures with little shields. And then the Pope is a Corvus Belli figure, and here you go. This is the first Corvus Belli figure I've ever painted. It's a Corvus Belli priest from their 100 Years War line that I modified with green stuff with his hat and his... I sanded off he actually has a hoodie. So I took his hoodie off, and then we gave him a gown, and, we poped him up, okay? And the chair, of course, is from Dungeon Torch on Etsy. They have an Etsy thing on Dungeon. I'm really happy with this. Now, this guy might suck, but you know what? This is the center point of this whole army. And the mat they're on is made from green stuff and painted. So, yeah, this was fun to be creative and do that kind of stuff. So, you're new to the world of DBA, so my opinion is about as valuable as a can of baked beans. I hate baked beans. They're the only bean I don't like. But that's the greatest stand I've ever seen. I don't know. It's cool to get things from different places. And I get a thrill out of get this figure from this one and this one from over here, and not like only use one manufacturer. I think that, these guard guys are small figures, but they work. They work on here just because, unless you're using guys that are significantly height difference, I mix and match everything. It's kind of fun, And these are not really illustrious figures, whoever these guards are, but I don't know who the hell makes them, but they're definitely old school figures. I figure there's something like Thistle and Rose or something like that. They're actually a pretty hard alloy, so they're not really, really old because they don't have the old school really high lead content, because if they had really bendy spears, I would have replaced their spears. So they're a whatever their spear is definitely has some pewter stuff in it to make them a little stiffer. Because usually, if you got bendy ass spears like these guys right here, these are alternative armies. Well, they're alternative armies now. They used to be tabletop when I got them. These spears are replaced because the ones they came on them were like almost like spaghetti things, and they had these huge blades of where they where the spear tips were and stuff like that. So I replaced all that stuff. So yeah, I like using figures and I like using figures. And I hope no miniature manufacturer gets upset with me. It's not the intent. I like using these second tier figures. Okay, so I don't go out and rush. What are the best figures out on the market? Stuff like Legio Heroica, Coruscant. I don't have those figures because they've come out recently. Okay, people don't go to flea markets and get rid of their Legio Heroica figures. Okay, they're beautiful figures. I don't have any of them, and I'm fine painting figures that aren't as good, and they paint up just fine. And you don't need to see me paint up Legio Heroica figures. Whoever they decided to paint on their website is absolutely brilliant painter. They don't, so I would rather, paint things that are, second or third tier figures, and, show you guys what can be done with a little TLC on these guys. So, anyhow, generally, I recommend that miniature manufacturer. Well, I recommend, like people are contacting me, Tony, what should we do with our pictures? Yeah. I think it's a good idea to just, if you're going to sell figures, just put your figures online, pictures of them, and then just give them a thin black wash so all the details come out. You don't have to have them painted, because if you get a really good painter, awesome. But if you don't, I think you sell your figures short. I think your figures are more capable of an average paint job. It doesn't sell the figures, so to speak. So they could have been made by some dude 30 years ago who only sold like 100 million. They could. Yeah. They could very well be made by that. Let me check one thing here. There we go. All right. Yeah. All right. Where are we at now? Still got some of this? Nope. No more caffeine or I'm going to be up all night. Could be worse, but all right. What do we got left on these guys to do? So we did his hair. Let's make this guy blonde and I guess the other guy black-headed. No, we're not going to make any red-headed Italians. That's just weird. Even though there's red-headed people that are Italians, but that's not what we think about. Let's get some yellow here. Yes, there's red-headed Italians, whatever. Oh, man. Good times, man. I appreciate you guys joining me today. It makes a big difference. It means a lot. It keeps me going so I can get these guys done so we can work on other things because I have a whole bunch of things to do. There's more where this stuff came from. There's more where that came from. All right, so let's start this as a base color. Should be good enough. A little bit more of that. And I know some of you guys like paint things, and I know you're stressed out painting it, and that must really suck because this is like totally like relaxing. I was doing some video gaming recently, and I love driving games, but man, some of them are just too freaking stressful. You know, it's like you're trying to do a point A to point B thing, and if you screw one thing, you don't make it in time, and you have to start over again. And just the idea of having to go over it is like stress-inducing, you know. Jeremy Heller, welcome. I love finding miniatures in the flea markets or consignment shelf in my local hobby store. What's a local hobby store? Yeah, I do too. I like figures that nobody loves. You know, it's like, let's put these guys to use. It's empowering. You know, nobody would give them another look. You know, they need some loving too. Let's, where's the brown? I'm going to mix another one. I got two. This is just popping off of this. You know what? We've had enough of this. This should be wet enough. We should be able to transition into this. All right. I should sell this at the museum. I may have to put more moisture on there. Yeah, I got at least 20 more of those papers. I'm good for a while. Yeah, I'll be right back. I gotta put more moisture. looks like I outlasted everybody at the house. Everybody went night-night except me. Okay, so we're going to take this sponge, and it's pretty darn wet. You can see there's lots of moisture coming out. And that's what you want. Hopefully I didn't ruin this one, but it would dry out. Just lay that thing on here. Okay. And see it's like, what do you do when the side comes up? Well, you just tell it, you son of a bitch, you get down here and stay down. Just run your finger around the edge and you're done. And if you got some of these cool tools, like I do, find one, I only have a million of them. And it's called a key card from a hotel that you didn't return accidentally. You could just smooth it out. These things are great, man. You could use this stuff for extra armor plates on like cars if you're doing stuff for Gaslands. You know, definitely material. It's not like I'm going to throw them away. We'll reuse this stuff. The paper has blown away. This? Bye-bye. It goes in the garbage can now. All right. Yeah, make fields, all kinds of stuff out of this material. This is, you can't find, you can't find this stuff in stores anymore. We used to have a hobby store in town that had sheet styrene. Now you got a mail order. Well, might as well get your free sheet styrene. I guess there's something metallic in it. Oh, you ought to cut one open, see what's in there one time. Still enjoy painting despite physical limitations. Once preparation is done, it's a breeze. I hate the prep, because I have to do it well. A simple paint job demands a decent finish. Close to one pile of boxes, living garden. No, wish I could never get better. The paper hath blown away. All right. Put the white in the middle and the black right next to it. That way we can access it from all sides. All right. What were we doing? We were doing our Blondie. Oh, Blondie. We don't need very much of that. Yellow behaves so weird. That and orange, it just doesn't cover worth a damn. It's just so weird. It's the only color that's that way. But we know it behaves that way, and you know, we can deal with it. All right, so let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll add some yellow to it. Okay, so this guy, all he needs is shoes. And this guy's the one we're going to do. We're going to paint his hair black. Right. I don't know if what I'm doing actually makes that much of a difference, but I know I've done it. So, all right, now we're going to do the blonde guy is going to have the black shoes. So let's go in here and paint the shoes black. This is always the part that gets scuffed up because it's near my fingers when I'm twisting this thing around, and invariably I end up clipping some of it and taking some of it away. So we just have to add a little bit of highlighting on there. Don't need to spend an inordinate amount of time on it because it's just the shoe part. Okay. Then we'll do another one in this brown. It's actually a little too wet. There we go. And then add a little bit of white, highlight that. Okay, and this last guy, we're going to do brown as well. But instead of just adding white to it to lighten it up when it's at this stage, I'm going to add a little bit more brown first. So when we get done with these three figures, what we're going to be left with is just two figures. They're both the same. They're this pose here. So they've got a brimmed helmet. Obviously they have a crossbow as well. They have kind of a shirt that's underneath their studded leather armor. That shirt and the sleeves is going to be red as well. And of course you'll have, you know, the leathery armor type thing. And then all the figures on both stands will have the motif of they have some kind of a red shirt on them to kind of tie them all together. All right, so I'm going to add this to brighten this up, and then after it's brightened, then we'll add a little bit of white, so it'll be slightly different. All right, what do we got left on these guys? Anything? We have to brighten up the helmets. So we use that Nuln oil. We're going to go up one level brighter than this gray, than this silver, this is the lead belcher. So we're going to go up one to Ironbreaker. Hope my eyesight doesn't deteriorate as I have a collection of 15mm figures. So until 5 years ago, I painted in 20/20 vision. So now I just have to take my contact. I'm nearsighted anyway, so now I take my contacts out and paint. So, have to. But that's not the important thing. The eyesight isn't the problem. The problem is you don't want the shakes. So I don't want to get the shakes ever. I'd rather get something else, like the shit your pants or something else. You know, I don't want the shakes. Shakes is really going to cut down what I can do. So, fortunately, that hasn't been an issue yet. Not that I want to get the shit your pants. I'm just saying, you know. So far, so good. Like I said, this is an extremely stress causing activity, so it's not like it makes me nervous or anything. That's kind of nice. It's very forgiving. I mean, if I botch something up, it's relatively easy to fix. Okay, we're just doing the crossbars on his helmet in this brighter color, make them pop a little bit. The painting with my contacts out, actually what's nice is since I can only see so close, I can't see, like, even where my paints, I have trouble finding out what paint it is over there. It keeps me actually from being distracted. The bad news, if I have to see anything you guys type, I can't see what it is, what it reads. I got to put my glasses on. That's why I put my glasses on a million friggin' times. But, you know, I guess you just adapt and overcome or quit. And I'm not going to get a lot of painting done quitting, so that's not happening. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. I make coffee number 3 of the day. There you go. Okay, well, this is, and I still haven't found, what did I call it? Foamy. A little thing I used to stand my figures on so you guys could see what I've done. So we have to use the ersatz foamy, which is this guy right here. A brush cleaner. Let's get these guys on here so you guys can see what the hell I've been working on. And these are Essex Miniatures crossbowmen, along with the other 3 that we have done. We're going to mix and match these guys on the stand. So these are the 6 of the 8 guys that are on these stands. So they're going to have the whole red shirt motif thing. Okay, you got the other guys that are going to have some studded leather armor, but they're still going to have the same red color shirt underneath. So they'll be tied in a little bit. They'll be just a little irregular looking. But that's where we're at right now. So, yeah. So anyways, thanks for all you guys that came by today. Really stepped up the game. I appreciate it. And 3 hours. 3 hours at the end of a work day. That's a freaking amazing. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. All you guys have a good night and enjoy your Thursday. We got 2 more days to go, and then we got freedom, right? All right, folks. Until next time, happy painting.